You've heard of Beantown, but has anyone ever stopped to ask why beans? Why this city? Why this ingredient? Today on Recipe Lab, we are breaking down 10 foods invented right here in Boston. From colonial trade routes and Puritan kitchens to hotel dining rooms and factory floors, these dishes trace a hidden story of religion, commerce, and happy accidents that shaped the way America eats. Some started as poverty food, others as kitchen mistakes, and at least one earned its inventor nothing more than a lifetime supply of chocolate. We are counting all 10 down, and the connections between them might surprise you more than the foods themselves. Let's start with number 10. In the 10th place, Boston baked beans simmered their way into local legend through a collision of Puritan ritual and Caribbean commerce. In colonial Boston, Sabbath laws banned cooking on Sundays, so families left navy beans, salt pork, and a generous pour of molasses to slow cook overnight in the hearth. That molasses, imported in staggering quantities, with customs records showing around 12,000 barrels arriving each year by the mid-1700s, was a byproduct of the city's booming trade with the West Indies. The result was a sweet, hearty stew that filled homes and fueled a new civic identity. By the early 1800s, newspapers were already calling Boston Beantown, a nickname born from both necessity and pride. The humble bean pot set the stage for a city where trade and tradition shaped every bite. Number 9. Boston brown bread stands out as a loaf that never saw the inside of an oven. In colonial kitchens where firewood was scarce and Sabbath laws kept ovens cold on Sundays, families turned to steaming, a practical workaround that shaped the city's breadbasket. A mixture of cornmeal, rye, and whole wheat, sweetened with molasses, was packed into iron cans, some listed in Charlestown probate inventories as early as 1761, and set to steam for hours above a simmering pot. The result was a dense, slightly sweet bread that stayed moist for days and paired perfectly with baked beans. This hands-off can steaming technique shows how domestic constraints and religious observance didn't just limit Boston cooks, they sparked enduring traditions. 8th place, New England clam chowder is Boston's creamy answer to the region's booming coastal economy. The classic bowl, made of clams, potatoes, onions, and salt pork, owes its richness to the Atlantic, but also to the city's deep pockets lined with molasses profits. In the early 1800s, Boston's rum and molasses trade did not just sweeten beans and bread, it bankrolled the fishing fleets that supplied local chowder houses. Salt pork, sometimes cured in molasses, was a staple ingredient, tying the chowder straight back to the city's sugar-fueled trade routes. Rivalries soon bubbled up along the coast. In 1939, Maine legislators made headlines with a tongue-in-cheek bill to outlaw tomato-based Manhattan chowder, a culinary line in the sand that still sparks debates today. Cream, not tomato, became a badge of pride, and chowder became a dish that is equal parts local history and regional rivalry. Number 7. Boston cream pie flips expectations before the fork even hits the plate. Despite the name, there's not a single pie crust in sight, just layers of airy sponge cake, silky vanilla custard, and a glossy chocolate glaze, all stacked together in the Parker House Hotel's dining room. In the 1850s, cakes and pies often shared the same round tin, so when the Parker House's pastry chef debuted the dessert, the name stuck. The hotel's menu in 1856 featured this pie, and over time it became a signature of Boston hospitality. Massachusetts doubled down on the misnomer in 1996, officially naming Boston cream pie the state dessert. It's a playful reminder that in Boston, even a naming mix-up can become a culinary icon, setting the stage for another Parker House creation just ahead. If you want more videos breaking down the hidden history behind the foods you eat every day, subscribe to Recipe Lab right now. Every dish has a story, and we find them all. Number 6. The Parker House roll proves that even kitchen frustration can spark culinary legend. In the 1870s, a baker at Boston's Parker House Hotel, possibly annoyed mid-shift, folded a round of dough over itself before baking, creating a soft, buttery roll with a signature pocket. That fold wasn't just a fluke. It became the roll's calling card, showing up on breakfast menus by the late 19th century and spreading nationwide. The hotel's guest list added to the mystique. According to memoirs and local lore, both Ho Chi Minh and Malcolm X spent time working in the Parker House kitchen, though no payroll records confirm it. Fact or myth, the roll's story captures how accident, ambition, and a dash of rumor can turn a simple bread into an American staple. Number 5. Indian pudding is a dessert that rewrites Boston's culinary script by blending indigenous wisdom with colonial necessity. Cornmeal, referred to as Indian meal in early New England cookbooks, replaced expensive wheat, while molasses, cheap and plentiful from the city's Caribbean trade, sweetened the pot. The classic recipe calls for cornmeal, milk, eggs, and a heavy pour of molasses, all baked slowly for hours until it transforms into a thick, custard-like pudding. This was autumn comfort food, often served at Thanksgiving tables and taverns by the late 1700s. Unlike British-style puddings, which relied on refined sugar, Boston's version leaned into local crops and the economics of the port. Indian pudding still appears on historic restaurant menus, a living reminder of how Boston cooks adapted native ingredients and global trade into something uniquely their own. Number 4. Escrow is Boston's most misunderstood menu item, a word that does not name a fish, but a fishmonger's clever solution. In the late 1800s, fish houses around Boston coined scrod as a shorthand for the youngest, freshest cod or haddock, split and broiled for hotel guests who demanded delicate fillets. The term became so central to the city's maritime identity that the Massachusetts State House installed the sacred cod, a 5-foot wooden fish, above the House of Representatives in 1784, a symbol of the industry's power over local fortunes. Escrod's rise tracks the era when ice distribution and daily catch delivery allowed Boston restaurants to promise the freshest fish, fueling a cod-based economy that built fortunes and shaped civic pride. In Boston, even a market label can become a badge of honor, proof that sometimes what you call a dish matters as much as what is on the plate. Number 3. The lobster roll is Boston's ultimate culinary flip. It was once a badge of poverty, and now it can be a $50 luxury on seaport menus. In the early 1800s, lobster was so plentiful that it was written into servant contracts as a food to be rationed, with some agreements specifying it could only be served twice a week to avoid complaints. By the turn of the 20th century, dock workers and prisoners were still eating boiled lobster as cheap protein, not as a treat. That changed around 1905, when a street vendor on Faneuil Hall Wharf started tucking lobster meat into a buttered roll, a seaside sandwich for working-class crowds. As Boston's tourism and dining scenes exploded, the roll was rebranded as a must-have for visitors from out of town, and prices began to climb. Fast forward to 2024, and a single lobster roll in Boston can set you back $50, according to a recent NBC report. This price is not just about lobster scarcity. It is a direct result of rising labor costs, supply chain pressures, and a relentless push to market the roll as a luxury experience. The lobster roll's journey from rationed crustacean to high-end souvenir captures the city's knack for turning economic tides into edible icons. In second place, the Fig Newton marks the moment Boston's food story turned from hearth and hotel into the machinery of mass production. In the 1890s, the Kennedy Biscuit Works in Cambridge filed a patent, number US 555,321, for a device that could extrude a ribbon of fig paste into a cookie shell, then slice it into bars at industrial speed. This was not just clever engineering, it was a pivot point for the city's food economy. By 1915, the Dorchester plant was shipping 5 million Fig Newtons a year, employing hundreds of workers and fueling the rise of the packaged snack aisle. When Nabisco scaled up in the post-war decades, automation pushed output to 30 million units a year by the 1960s, a leap that dwarfed anything coming out of Boston's bakeries or hotels. The Fig Newton was not just a cookie, it was a symbol of Boston's shift from homemade treats to factory-scale, shelf-stable foods that could travel across the country. That industrial legacy sets the stage for the final chapter, where a single kitchen mishap would spark America's most famous cookie. And finally, in first place, the chocolate chip cookie stands as Boston's sweetest accident, and perhaps its most lopsided deal. In 1938, Ruth Wakefield, owner of the Toll House Inn in Whitman, tried to make a batch of her signature butterdrop cookies, but ran out of baking chocolate. She chopped up a Nestlé semi-sweet bar, expecting it to melt into the dough. Instead, the bits held their shape, and the world's first chocolate chip cookie was born. The recipe appeared in the Boston Evening Transcript that same year, and the response was electric. Nestlé took notice. By 1939, they struck a deal with Wakefield. For the rights to print her recipe on every bar of chocolate, Wakefield received a single dollar and a lifetime supply of Nestlé chocolate, a bargain that fueled billions in cookie sales for the company. The Toll House recipe printed on every Nestlé package turned a local mishap into a global ritual. Today, the chocolate chip cookie is a fixture from Boston bake sales to supermarket aisles in over 50 countries. Wakefield's kitchen slip-up didn't just change dessert. It closed the loop from colonial molasses to the modern snack aisle, showing how Boston's knack for turning small, practical fixes into national traditions is as enduring as the cookie itself. Across all 10 dishes, one pattern stands out. Boston's food isn't just local flavor, it is a recipe book of invention, born from necessity, trade, and accident. These surprising origins remind us that American classics often hide stories of adaptation and irony. Culinary history here is always more than meets the taste buds.